Welcome everybody to Mudflood. Was Armageddon the Mudflood? Was indeed the Armageddon. Don't let them tell you anything else unless they're willing to debate you in a fair and honest way. I seem to have misplaced something that I was expecting to be there. Anyway, I'm going to let that go and get into the show. I did say the welcome everything. Welcome everybody. Let's get the this thing. Here you go. Get to see that? Looks like it. I'm seeing a black screen. Oh man. I don't think I hit the share the screen thing. Here we're gonna try it again. There you go. Now we're good. I can show you some videos, but first I want to show you this Bible verse. Here we go. At that time, Joshua proceeded. This is Joshua chapter 11, verse 21. It continues to eliminate the Anakim from the hill country. Verse 22 starts, no Anakim were left in the land of the Israelites. Only in Gaza, Gath, and Ashdod did they survive. I've been trying to tell you I needed to re-emphasize it. The Lord put it on my mind to go re-emphasize this part. The Anakim, the giants, what the big people, what are wrongly called clown Nephilims, were not fierce demon fighting machines at all. They would just get the Hivites, Og and Bashan struck them down. All these guys. There were tall people everywhere. I felt like hammering that one home. Let's look at, did I have any new pictures? I really didn't. I only had, my day. Remember I had this day going where I was going to I had to enroll in school late, and I'm just going like, man, people can enroll late. So I went and I told them, look, I want to enroll. I'm doing this, that, and the other thing. All my prophecies are coming true. I got the money. Don't do anything crazy. They said, no problem. No problem, Paco. Glad to see you. So I stopped into the library to get, how do I do it? Free books. The Trader. This is the guy who wrote the book, first edition. This is the follow up to the one Ku Klux Klan movie that was shown in the White House. About the second version of the Ku Klux Klan. I'm going like, wow, that book looks old and it's free. The characters are the head of the Ku Klux Klan. Wow. I brought it up, and the other book from 1878, 1880. Sometimes you just can't see that. It's not doing too good. But I opened it up, and it said Diderot, Diderot, the Encyclopedias Atheist, and that's spelled with that A that's connected to the E, D-I-S-T, kind of like deist, but not really. 1878, and it talks about St. Petersburg, going to different, what it would be like if you were in the world and needed to go and see what the world was teaching. Here's one on the Hague, Holberg's system of nature. So this will be a whole different show, but I found these books by taking care of my business, Zach Mack. Zach Mack, I'm entering myself into the Rio Frio race. I'm going to try to win in the over 65 age group. My friend Joaquin, probably one of the he's a flat earther. He golden age passed right on. He's the defending champion, the overall champion, and the 21 to 25 age group champion. And he told me, he said, look, the guy that was in your age group did 9-minute and 30-second miles. And I'm thinking, like, that's like speed walking. I'm there like, well, I'll enter then. So I said, when I get there, point him out to me. So this Saturday, I'm entering in a 5-kilometer race, man. Rio Frio in Alamosa. I went to the vice president's office at the university today. I'm here to expose the Epstein connection to even the smallest Adams State University, 47 out of 48, college, university in Colorado. They hired their first woman. She was recommended by Bill Richardson, Epstein Express. I'm the prophet that's called all this, made prophecies. The Mississippi will be hit by a 5 hurricane, category 5 hurricane on this date. Everything's playing out. And I know the secretary for the vice president pretty good. And she goes like, well, what do they do? What do you tell them? I say, well, the friends that I have here, I say, when they go, what should we do, Paco? And I said, well, I moved to Alamosa to ride it out. So why don't we just ride it out and see what's going to happen, What else can we do? Maybe I should put a little more light on that. I paid extra $5 for that camera with the light. Yeah, he could be a climber. He could probably do some walking. 40 days in the desert. I got to keep rolling. So I had the Bible verse. I had this. Here's that book, The Traitor, Thomas Dixon, about the Klan during the Reconstruction. Now, this is part 3. This plot concerns a John Graham, not John Galt, a Confederate veteran, dispossessed planter, serves as the grand dragon of the Ku Klux Klan in North Carolina. Hang on. As Black Power seems to have been curtailed, the Reconstruction people won. The Grand Wizard says we need to have one last march and just say we won. So they did it. And in truth, this is history. The first Klan's Grand Wizard, Nathan Bedford Forrest, famous Confederate hero. Now, don't tell me that's not like, isn't that look like Theron, the guy that's the flat earther that wants to go to the North Pole? I think so. But anyway, so they burned their robes and buried them in a grave, but somebody else started another bad Klan. The book turned out to be a meditation on whiteness, a contest between the good Klan and the bad Klan. That's what Judith Jackson Fawcett thought of the book when she studied it. She reminded her of Edgar Allan Poe, Rosicrucian, Theosophist, would have been white power all the way. I guess he had some burning robe scenes. So I got this book. It was the, what was the name of that book? Well, I remember it, like you said, it was one in a series. When you see that movie, you know which one I talk about. His last book, written, in 1939, 28th last novel, a racist gerrymad centered on the specter of black sexuality. It was the birth of a nation. That he's the same guy that wrote the book that made it into this movie. Webb Du Bois got into it. You know, they all thought it was really good because after her sister gets raped, an African American breaks in, or kills her son, rapes her sister. She wants to find out what's going on, so she eventually donates 10 million to, help Marcus Garvey colonize Africa. Now, one of my most outlandish theories is that Marcus Garvey was actually, instead of taking them to Africa, was loading black people onto these ships because he was a Prince Hall Freemason, taking them to the steel mills, and they were melting humans to get their metal because they know there's gold, silver, and precious stones in us. Because it was their tender mercies are death. And this rewrite is bloody. And what we're going to see in the next 20 years is going to be fathers eating their sons, sons eating their fathers, women who were so dainty they wouldn't want their sandal to get muddy are going to be hiding their placenta so they can eat it by themselves because they don't want to share it. That's how bad it's going to be, not to mention the thirst for most people because they'll have no access to fresh water. It's not my job to sugarcoat it. These guys did it, man. And they set us up. Oh, what's this?
At large in St. Paul, we will be providing the public with photos and descriptors to help us locate and apprehend these public safety threats, which they did. And I got to tell you, I don't see how they could possibly be identified as Mr. Tao.
All right, RJ wanted to let you know this guy here is a U.S. citizen, lived here for 40 years. They're saying he knew some people and they thought this guy was one of these two people that was wanted for these. Turns out nothing could be further from the truth. He was not. But they marched him out practically naked, man. And it's not him. They're not sorry.
The individual refused to be fingerprinted or facially ID'd. He matched the description of the targets. Tao and his family said in a statement that it categorically disputes the DHS account and strongly objects to DHS's attempt to publicly justify this conduct with false and misleading claims. Tao told the AP that only he, his son and daughter-in-law, and his grandson live at the rental home. Neither they nor the property's owner are listed in the Minnesota SEX offender registry, and the nearest one of these offenders listed as living in the zip code is more than 2 blocks away. DHS didn't respond to a request from the Associated Press seeking the identities of the two.
They don't say there's sorry. Donald Trump is not sorry. He can keep getting reelected. I just wanted to say, thanks, guys. I'm getting some more views. The shorts are working out. It seems to be about average, but the influence in my world seems to be beyond scope. Now, let's get into it. Jason Jack put out a video today I'm going to praise. I looked at Jason Jack. This was a year ago, and I have not been hard on him. He did a good video today. I tried to warn him, but I wanted to know he's been on my mind. I've been trying to tell people, what he said. I have one here is Jason Jack finally doing Mudflood 9 months ago. It was like looking good. Dangers of preterism. We'll look at that. Watch out. Divine Counsel a year ago. What is preterism? Little Season Eschatology is not preterism. A really good video where he explains it. And that's what it's going to take, because we are living in the time that he's talking about. And then I'm going to cover a couple of other things that will, I think, would just be exciting. Anyway, still saying hi. How you doing? Stick around. I think you'll like this. So I started out trying to warn him, this Daniel 9:26, because he has fished around. He was hanging around with Clown Boy. I'm not sure he's distanced himself from the book of Jasher, Maccabees, and Enoch, but he has read the Bible. He's sticking with what is theology, what are correct terms. He was a little bit goofy, I thought, about a year ago. So I tried to warn him. Well, RJ patiently listened.
Servants,
Who is going to be
Gentiles are involved early on in a number of
and then all of a sudden the people of some prince are going to come and destroy the city and the sanctuary. I'm just trying to say, Jason, you're going to have, I'm only I'm the last prophet, the guy that claims all these things. And if it's this easy for me, the guys that make a living doing this are going to eat you alive, man. Let's hear him. Here's some more.
Because it says that the people that shall come shall destroy the city and the sanctuary. And we know that the Jewish people did not destroy their own city of Jerusalem or their temple. This was another people. This was another prince. And this prince that we see is the head of the Roman Empire that was to occur during this time period. The Roman emperor that led
Vespasian?
The Roman.
Boy, I'm an interrupter. But anyway, what else we do on this video here?
Roman gods. And I believe that this is also a foreshadowing of the spirit of Apollyon to.
So you could just throw that out there. His one today is much better. So here's what I wanted to do, is probably challenge him to read about Daniel chapter 12.
Any reason other than a sneaking suspicion, or what?
That's my brother RJ. Well, I mean, we got the beast and the false prophet thrown into the lake of fire. Verse 20. They're captured. We know that those people, before they're being warned, don't take the mark of the beast, but most of them did. Very few kept their hand on the plow. It's
not until after all this transpires before you have any sort of rapture.
Yeah, these two. Yeah, these two are making lake of thrown alive in the lake of fire. They're not making any deals, with possessing. No, I don't. Yeah, there's nothing in this prophecy that the general gets his ass kicked. When Jesus comes, there's no negotiating. I'll interrupt here to say yes. Chapter 19 is the victory of Christ. It's Armageddon. He defeats the beast, the false prophet, and Satan. The sword comes out of his mouth. The birds are gorged, and they're glad they're in the mountains, that the wrath doesn't fall on them. That's how I wanted to summarize that. I don't know what I'm jibber-jabbering about. You're just getting your butt kicked. It's not like, we'll do this and you do that. Beast captured, thrown in it. Satan is put into the pit for 1,000 years. There's this to come. There's a lot going on than just in that this 3.5 years, that 3.5 years.
Yeah,
boom! It has it figured out.
The elements, would be
right, because
like wax.
We're seeing this is chapter 12 when he just jumped to the 1,290 days, and that is from a very specific time that none of the wicked are going to be able to understand. But from the time that the regular burnt offering is taken away, not by Titus, who is going, or whoever, at that time period, it probably would have been Titus. I believe it was Antichus who they credit with, he did it during the time of Maccabees. But it was Titus himself proclaiming to be a Greek god. Give me the gold. I've taken over another thing. Little did Titus know he was fulfilling prophecy, and they were going to see him coming on the clouds. Every eye on God's flat earth that took it over and burned it down. And that's the regular burnt offering being taken away for
Yeah,
good.
that other big event was the and look, where he turns to worms.
Oh yeah, Herod getting eaten by the worms. You're talking about Herod.
Yeah. He's a god.
Yes,
Well, maybe not.
The deal. Right. Now, that's the abomination that makes it desolate. A Gentile went in there. You could never have any more regular burnt offerings ever. There's going to be 1,290 days. It doesn't say days and nights. That leaves it open for what every eschatology has. One of these is like 40 days in the spying out the land, and you rejected it. It goes to 40 years in the desert. Job on it, or not Job, Ezekiel on his side, 390 days equaled 390 years of judgment for the tribes of Israel that left Judah. He laid on his other side for 40 years for Judah because Judah went bad. Days for years is the most accepted thing. And there's going to be 1,290 years. And blessed are those that make it another 45 after a major big event. And that is going to be the end. Everything is sealed. You go your way to the end. You're going to rest and then stand in your allotted place at the end of days. At the end of days, we were in just recently, 10 minutes ago, in Revelation 20, verse 11 is the great white throne, and that's right after this 1,000-year thing. So they can't tell me. I've heard Jason and Shelley and Theron and those guys, Paul Stoops, when they were friends doing shows together, talk about how mean I was, and they should just, all I want to do is cause trouble. And that's all Jason knows about me. But I know they probably know my 1335, and it was 9/11, and it goes back, and we've been doing this. I can only hope. I'm going to, not dwell on that. I just want to show that I've been focusing on it. 9 months ago, I was much happier.
What's most important, what's pleasing in God's sight, and I would hope, the truth in intent.
It will, yeah.
Is
capable. So, he gets it, the first part he goes over, are they branding the verses? And here's where he kind of gets into it. Let's listen. I'm anxious to hear your opinion.
Has branded these verses. So if you see Jesus' simple words to those disciples, to that generation of things soon to come, you have no other option within the church but to go down that path of preterism. There's no other option. It has branded those.
Like that, I think I'm funny.
But when you look at full preterism, it's an utter mess. It shows that everything has been fulfilled and that we are in the
I can't tell you how happy this makes me.
New heaven and new earth right now. It makes the 1,000 years mentioned 6 times in 6 verses in Revelation 20 to mean.
Then that word used 6 times in 6 verses in Revelation is Celia, and it is the geometric term that has to be 1,000. It's the word for a measurement. If you're going to measure something, and it has to be, 1,000 cubits long, you use that word. If it has to be 1,000, the word actually shows it means 10 times 10 times 10. That's what that word means. It's exactly 1,000. It's a prison sentence. It's a golden age. It's an all gone golden age.
40 years, and that the Satan's little season is within those 40 years, those symbolic years of the millennium. It absolutely makes no sense.
Well,
It would
that
tell
we
you
agree.
that death has been overcome, that there is no more tears and no more crying, that we're in the new heaven and new earth right now. Let everything spiritualize, because truth.
All right, we can't get into too much here. Let's see what's going on here. That must have been a little hitch in the giddy up with my Wi-Fi, and it's still showing my Wi-Fi as low. That's a bad April Fool's joke. So at least I want you to know this happened.
The Jews, the United States was the perfect place that would offer them the kind of economic and social freedom that would be necessary to actually have their lives. But all of that being said, Jewish immigrants were not always, and very often were straight up not, welcome in many of the places that they came to. New Jewish enclaves that would appear in northern cities were oftentimes viewed with great suspicion. And when things broke out in civil war, well, it got significantly worse.
Really?
But why, you may wonder?
Yeah.
Well, almost as soon as the war began, illegal trade and smuggling between the northern states and the southern states also started. Although the Union had blockaded southern ports, goods still made their way over the border, and people who were seeking profit.
So it's kind of like that moonshine money in a
would
Mudflood.
continue their trade illicitly.
Well, supply and demand,
Cotton would rise
black
to
market.
embargo.
I
After
wonder
all,
what
the
they were
majority of
trading for.
agricultural crops that
Man, we had no idea what it was like to live in those mud-flood cities. R.C. Sproul, he was into preterism. I was into preterism. All these guys were into preterism. Had the homeschool movement. We also had a PhD mill. And yeah, R.C. Sproul, his son, Gary DeMar, Ken Gentry, you saw him making a video about post-millennial earlier today. He was the one doing about the over 1,000-page book on Revelation. But I'm showing you, man, the Lord put me to work in this school where the one drop rule and these guys were all put out. We had the largest homeschool supply and we were teaching Americans manifest destiny. And we were also producing Christians who could read and write, which is rare in the United States today. And yeah, these guys, all the preterists, got their PhDs from the company I was working for. That's how I knew it. D-Mill. And yeah, R.C. Sproul, his son, Gary DeMar, Ken Gentry, you saw him making a video about post-millennial earlier today. He was the one doing about the over 1,000-page book on Revelation. But I'm the one that's connected to from the very beginning when I was in the military. I had, like everybody else that was an athlete in school, I had 1 year of math, pass algebra, and you're good. 5 years later, when I was going to join the army because some hostages have been taken by the Ayatollah, I took a test, joined the army. They told me you can be a surveyor. And I ended up working on the parallel azimuth direction system. It became the GPS. This has been my whole life. And I don't care how many subscribers I get. It's going to always be 7 to 10 videos a week talking like this. Yeah, man.
God's law when it's actually applied to all of life, and that it would.
And part of applying it all to life is to realize that in your liberty, you can smoke cigars, you can drink beer, and I'm not going to make that argument that God forbids beer, because it certainly doesn't seem like that would fall into the category of it's forbidden, but it can also be very much of a danger. It's also a way to be, watch out. You don't want to, focus on being a beer snob as you live. Whatever. I picked a bad spot. I thought I'd be explaining something. Doug Wilson.
Will turn into snobs of various kinds, beer snobs, or I'm Reformed, so I'm a cigar snob, or a beer snob, or I'm from the Pacific Northwest, so I'm a coffee snob, and there's such a thing as there is such a thing as
I'm from Chicago. I'm a pizza snob.
quality. You don't want to become egalitarian
You don't want to become egalitarian, because egalitarian is, what the French used during the French Revolution is liberty, egalite, and fraternity, fraternal orders. Those can take it bad as you pursue the good life. Anyway, I guess I'm trying to prove I was warning against these preterists for a long time. But this will be a good explanation for anybody that wants to catch up, because they should be able to. But what's the estimate of the Israelites that came out of Egypt? I've heard 2 million, and they make a pretty good argument for it could be even more. Okay. And water came out of a mountain of flint, because people like us, Dante, they say you're 70, 80% water, but 100% of your cells are mostly water. Darwinism sounds cool. We're the best. I mean, look at Lena Horne. Who wouldn't go like, yeah, they look pretty good to me too, They could be the best. Sorry, Judah, you're number 2 now. Wherever she's from, number 1. A year ago, I was talking to Dante.
The sons of God were given to the nations at the Tower of Babel. And it seems to me that it's because what happened was that, we were talking earlier before the show about the divine incursion view of how did the Nephilim.
All right, so I give 0 credence, Dante, to the Septuagint and all of that whole, because they say, if you're going to be like, yeah, I like the Septuagint, you have to go with their version of why they like the Septuagint. They like it because they say a bunch of manuscripts were given to 70 different people, and they all came back with the exact same translation. So they said, that's our new Septuagint. This is the go-to Bible. And it sounds like a fairy. Wrong. That's wrong, man. But people keep trying to shove it down my throat. 580 of the 1958 United States Defense National Education Act. Part of it is Part F in Section 1001. Part F says no part of any fund appropriated or otherwise made available for expenditure under authority of this act. That means if you're involved in it, you don't get no money. And this covered, if you're a senator, you've got to do this or you don't get no money. This act shall be used to make payments or loans to any individual unless this individual has executed and filed with the commissioner an affidavit that he does not believe in and is not a member of and does not support any organization that teaches it, believes in the overthrow of the United States government by force or violence or by any illegal or unconstitutional methods, or 2. And why did they get the Pledge of Allegiance in 1958? They say under God. Well, probably for this. Number 2, has taken and subscribed to an oath or affirmation in the following form. I do solemnly swear and affirm that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the not all capital United States of America, and will support and defend the Constitution and laws of this United States against all its enemies, foreign and domestic. The provisions are Section 1001, Title 18, United. And this is still in use today. If you change colleges as a teacher, you have to sign this Form 1001, Title 18, that you don't believe the United States government by force or violence or any illegal, unconstitutional method was taken over. clip it. That's for keeper right there. So there's my thing. I talked about the court Jews earlier today. I talked about the Anastasi, and here is Jason Jack telling it like it is.
Weird, strange, or unbiblical. And just to get the definitions, in case you don't know what preterism is, there are two major forms: partial preterism, full preterism. Partial preterism holds that prophecies such as the destruction of Jerusalem, the Antichrist, the Great Tribulation, the advent of the day of the Lord as a judgment coming of Christ were fulfilled in AD 70 at the destruction of the Jewish temple. That it wasn't a literal bodily return of Jesus Christ, but it was a return in judgment through the Roman army, destroying the Levitical priesthood, the temple system, and the temple itself, with and along with the city of Jerusalem. Whereas full preterism sees all prophecy being fulfilled, including the resurrection of the dead, the second coming of Jesus Christ, even that death has been defeated, and that now we are in the new heaven and new earth. We're in the eternal state right now, and it's a never-ending loop. The futurist view, on the other hand, looks at the book of Revelation as its fulfillment is still yet to come. It's still in the future. All these events, the tribulation, the Antichrist, the mark of the beast, the second coming, the millennial reign of Christ, is all in the future. This is how many churches, especially in the United States, teach the book of Revelation today. The rapture of the church in premillennialism, in this futurist viewpoint, is a huge, huge talking point, a huge topic that is discussed and debated within the modern church. And within the premillennial camp, within this futurist doctrine, there's a lot of debate within it. Are you a pre-tribber, a mid-tribber, a post-tribulation? And
I'm going to break in here for a second. I think, that he's doing a great job. Now, the post-mill or the pre-trib, mid-trib, post-trib, unfortunately, and I'm probably right about this, I'm going to put a link in right now, RJ. I think that the longer that, when people have their hopes crushed, because as they say, they think it's their blessed hope. I talked to Luther today, and, to them, it's their blessed hope, and they don't want it taken away. Well, it's going to be taken away when they all of a sudden they look back after COVID and they realize they've gone through 7 years of tribulation, and then some will switch to mid-trib, and then another 3.5 years will go by, and then it'll still be bad. And so more Christians, it's a way of slowly depleting, make people lose their hope. Go, Jason.
it all views on when the rapture comes in context with the tribulation. Is this also a false dichotomy that we're looking at right here? But some churches go as far as saying the pre-tribulation rapture of the church is an essential doctrine of the Christian faith. And so once a pastor or preacher or church starts to go down this path, then those that have been taught this viewpoint will begin to look at Christians who have other interpretations of the book of Revelation, have other.
Okay. Hey, man. Things couldn't have been better for the when I went in to see the vice president and stuff and talk to him. I was so comforted. The Lord has blessed me. I was nervous about that. I talked to you, I talked to Luther, and then I went and did it, and it seems like everything could be okay. And I just want to buy a sauna now because I saw. Didn't you send me a video where a guy was doing a sauna? No, you didn't send it to me.
I don't. Yeah, I don't believe I was the source.
Will you hold on, my man? It's one of those. It just seems so weird. The guy that does it, I think it's a computer or something. But where is it? He got into doing saunas, and he started checking his sweat after days of chemtrails.
But I guess it does happen. The firefighters told the
And it was on this one here, said it was nothing. Look what happened. No, that's not the one.
So he's doing some lab work on his sweat.
Yeah, and it turns out that on days when the chemtrails are out and about, it's off the hook. Strange videos.
We definitely have quite a few things to get into in today's video.
Ordered a debit.
You're not sharing, though.
But it never reached
I will
her.
be.
Instead, it was activated by an unknown party who used it to charge her for $1,470 for computer repair. She opened a dispute as unauthorized, and then Wells Fargo
This is
looked
interesting
into it
too.
for about a week, finally coming back with a dispute decision that she was the one who made that transaction and that the business had confirmed her details and the transaction amount. So she decided to do some investigative work herself. She called the computer repair business and asked them, did this transaction ever occur? They confirmed that not only had the transaction never occurred, but Wells Fargo never even called them in the first place. And you know how I know that? Because I was the computer repair business in question. So I decided to make a video letting people know that Wells Fargo just fabricated a detail in an investigation.
Wow.
That they said that she was the one who made the transaction and that I supposedly confirmed the details. They're just trying to take her money. They're trying to find the dispute not in her favor so that they don't have to give her $1,400 back that they lost because they have some kind of inside job going on where they're losing debit cards, they're getting charged, and they can't recover the funds. So they're trying to hold random people accountable. And if you need proof, just refer back to this video.
This is absolutely wild, but when do banks never try to steal our money? Matter of fact, I did a story yesterday about how the Bank of England are warning people that alien disclosure would wipe out their bank accounts. I mean, they're always scheming to try to take our money in any way that they can. So this doesn't surprise me one bit.
So somebody explain this to me. Today is January 19th. Right there. 1:05 p.m. January 19th, Central Time.
All right, so maybe it's the one before this.
Since time began. Just another one of those things that people don't want to pay attention to. You think it's not going to affect them. But wait until there's no food in the supermarket because all these bees are dying.
There'll be things in the supermarket to eat, but they'll be lab grown. So I guess you really can't call that food. But it's not just bees, it's insects as a whole. I can drive from where I live to Orlando, which is about a 2-hour drive on 95, the interstate. And I hardly ever, if at all, see any bugs splattering the windshield, which is a far cry from when I was a kid, when you would see them plastered all over the windshield.
RJ, I'll bet you remember getting bugs on the windshield in the middle of Wisconsin.
Yeah, it's worse on a motorcycle.
Oh my goodness. I remember on a roller coaster sometimes you go through a patch where there's gnats or something, and it'd be like a little machine gun.
Especially the June bugs.
Ooh, right.
From the frequencies to what they're putting up in the skies, they are terraforming the earth, and the natural creatures cannot handle it.
Another example is the array of technologies, often referred to collectively as geoengineering, that potentially could help reverse the warming effects of global change.
Wow.
One that has gained my personal attention is stratospheric.
Sweated, and I sweated for a bunch of days, but I sweated and collected the sweat samples and then an engineer and sent them off to the lab and said, what's coming out when there's no chemtrails? And what we found really corroborates Dane Wigington's great work at Geoengineering Watch and also Mike Adams, Health Ranger's great work on the sky fallout. We corroborated that what's coming out of us are aluminum, barium, and strontium. But this is where it gets really exciting. The aluminum is far and away the largest short-circuiting heavy metal that we are being exposed to in these chemtrails. So with no chemtrails, the amount that came out in my sweat, Pastor, was 281 nanograms per gram. Now that's more than triple.
I don't want to get into the numbers, but RJ, that's what I learned today going to the vice president doing the things, is that I can afford to buy a sauna for Norma and say, I'll buy this for you. Can I use it? And then, I'll try to experiment different ways to heat up iron to get it hot, do my own sweat, my own measurements, save some money, and then in this summer get out there, break the rocks and, and get her done, But it seems, it's a good plan. It's what I'm praying for this winter.
Yeah. If you have a place to set it up, and yeah.
Oh yeah,
Why not?
she has a big house. Let's listen to a little bit more of Jason Jack.
Other understandings of end times as, well, they're crazy. They don't have an essential doctrine of the Christian faith. Are they even Christians? Do they read their Bible? What's wrong with them? But that's part of the conditioning, this division of the modern church with all its dogmatism, all its denominations, all its divisions. This is simply just the path that has conditioned the members within the church today of the Christian faith to begin to look at anybody that doesn't hold the exact same doctrine on non-essentials such as eschatology as being a heretic, as being a non-believer, as being something that will damn them to hell if they teach it. That's what many, many pastors will sit in their pulpits and say today. And as a result, there's a lot of people on social media today that will begin to make videos on other eschatology viewpoints. And now, especially since Little Season Eschatology is growing and growing and growing, as it should, because I believe it's the truth. And I believe that God is opening up the eyes of those without us to see during this day and age of this truth.
I'm glad that he thinks like that. RJ, what's your take? How much do you consume of what happened to Charlie Kirk? And it seems like there's a lot of shenanigans going on there at TPUSA. I don't know if I've ever said, what do you think?
Oh, I avoid it.
You avoid it.
How does that impact my salvation? I don't believe it does.
Well, it's a big plan where they're exposing a pretty big church that was.
I wouldn't dispute that. No,
but we never heard of Charlie Kirk before he was assassinated, right?
Well, speaking for myself, correct.
Yeah, and I never had her either. Turns out it's not really it's a Mormon organization that is trying to bring together Mormons, charismatic Catholics, and regular the guys that are all over the radio, that type of charismatic, the big hair, not the Pentecostal wear a doily, but the big hair heel and stuff like that. So they're all working together to try to get a new religion where they accept the Book of Mormon, where they accept speaking in tongues. That's going to be their new thing.
Yeah, the Babylon Bee had where all that rioting and it was, I guess, in a Pentecostal church or near one, and they didn't even realize the riot was going on because that was like normal in the Pentecostal church.
Yeah, I would love to get some video on that. Maybe we can find some later.
But they are coming against it. And when they come against it
and say it's preterism. And they will begin to conflate things. But I don't even blame them. And I don't even think it's disingenuous that they're doing that. I think they've been so conditioned, and it's a failure of the church to show other viewpoints, to show the tenets and the possibilities of those tenets being correct, and that those tenets are not evil. They're just a different way of interpreting biblical prophecy. But in churches that teach futurist doctrine, they will tell their members that preterism is evil, it's heresy, and that it deceives. And
it was, you were there, RJ. You were there 4 years ago, 3 years ago, 2 years ago when I was trying to tell them, stop calling it preterism. Preterism is not what the short season is. And they were telling me, I'm so mean. You know what else I was reminded of today? Did you send me this? I'm going to show this later. But I was reminded of a book called Debt of Honor. Here's a, I got a review of it. The narrative opened as Hong Kong banks engage in complex transaction involving U.S. Treasury bonds motivated by changes in currency values and impending ownership shifts, whatever that means. They're going to liquidate 290. That was a lot of money back. Nobody would have dreamed we were talking about trillions when he wrote this book in 1990 or whatever it was. It was like he had to keep it like, the budget's 290 billion. So, but today, we're talking about, we're already 40 trillion in debt. European banks step in to purchase them, rippling consequences. Oh no. The Federal Reserve responds to a dramatic decline in value of the US dollar induced by the rapid bond sell off. When you look up the book, Debt of Honor, the techno thriller from 1994, the movie or the novel released, I read it. We were all waiting for it. There was a time people read it. The New York Times bestseller. The novel was later noted as containing plot elements which were similar to the circumstances of you heard about that September 11. You're not a fan. You don't buy their story, RJ.
Well, the event was real, but not how, they describe it.
It would seem they tapped this guy.
The how and the why. The when, when it happened, it was real, but not the how and the why.
Right. Well, they're not going to admit. A bunch of Israeli artists wired it with explosives and thermite and whatever else they had going on, because it'd be like, no, but if you want to know what happened, read this book. They basically tell you, and they do it. It's about the money as a payback, for what
a lot of times it is.
A lot of times it is. So I tried to find a thing of it, and I pretty much did. I found at least a resell. I wanted to read where the guy was going like, wait a minute, this guy didn't like fight it off. He actually caused it, because there are certain people, I guess, that they know that, okay, if I hold on now, sell it, that'll mean I know that the computers are going to do this and that. And this is 1994. And it basically, the rapid sell-off, anxiously monitoring, they had to shut down the market. It dropped so much. The chapter culminates with an erratic market turn, leading to the total suspension. Well, that happens when their computers say shut it down. And it happened in 1995 also. So that's some weird stuff. Before we get back to Jason, did you send me this, RJ?
I'm not
I think you did.
certain.
It was
I
about
may have.
the batteries.
Oh, yeah, I sent you that. Yeah, the salt.
And why
Appreciate it because I like the ones you send, but this one, I feel like I could do this. I feel like I could make it.
Go to the like 8.75 minute mark. That's where it describes about the levitating shaft and impeller. The bearing, there's no contact, and he described about
wow
8.5. Like start because it shouldn't take too long.
One of the problems with this one is that it needs service every now and then. The goal of this one is to have a pump eventually that can run for 10 years in this very harsh environment with molten salts, very high temperatures, up to 700 or 800 degrees, and with
That's
a high
not that
level of
hot.
radiation without any service for 10 years. This is like super difficult. This one here has electromagnetic bearings, meaning that all the rotating parts inside are levitating on a magnetic field when it's rotating. And this means that no surfaces are grinding against each other. We haven't finished the R&D for this one. This is still being developed, but hopefully in a couple of years, this one will also be up and running in many.
Yeah, I'll bet Joaquin could make that in a week if he had the parts, if we could get it in a kit. But if we had to make these, oh man, that'd be a bitch. Excuse my language.
Yeah, I think this is already a decade in the development, but that's part of the serious detailing.
One thing I've learned is it's good to read the books of the people that know how to do it. It's like I became a pretty good coach right off the bat because I didn't try to reinvent the wheel. I read the books from the guys that were winning all the games and did what they did.
Writing the book, it's a trial by error. So yeah, you don't just start out and write the book.
Right. We could put the puzzles together, but
research and development required.
The time in the machining.
Many copies.
This is our loop hall, or essentially test loop hall, where we are running a lot of tests all the time. This one is our longest running loop. It has been running for more than 2 years now. So that's hugely important for us because we have to prove that our components are reliable. The reason why the hands are sticking out, we get that question quite a lot. It's because there is a little bit of an overpressure with the argon inside. We need to have an inert atmosphere where there is no oxygen. The salt sort of captures the oxygen. It also sucks a lot of moisture out of the air. So we want to keep that away because that is what is causing the corrosion. This would be the cold side, where you have the operating system. That's essentially what's controlling the entire loop. This is the hot side. You see the insulation around. These down here and up here.
You know what I think these guys are, I could see going to the mountains and saying, praying, fall on me. But I can't see placing my whole life on living underground because don't worry, these machines will take care of us. Wow.
Or steam generators. Those steam generators basically convert the heat from the hot salt into steam, which can then drive a steam turbine. The salt that comes out of the reactor is not radioactive. There are some other salts inside the reactor that are radioactive, but we use heat exchangers to bring the heat from the radioactive salt over to a non-radioactive salt that can be sent out of the building.
You think this is what they want to run their underground cities with? That's what they're planning for. I know it's not going to work out for them when the fire comes down, but for a while they're going to be thinking they win. They're going to be trying to finish us off, hunt us down, make us take the jab or whatever their excuse of the day is going to be. But they're going to be living under the Denver airport, under Chicago, St. Louis, I guess, Los Angeles. But if you're not one of them, you're not welcome down underground. Are we talking underground, deep underground bunkers, RJ?
Well, I'm not, but as far as what they're developing, as far as a type of, nuclear reactor for, the efficiency, and once it's up and going, it's self-regulates. Yeah, it's an interesting concept, but what the heck they say they need like 200 million just to.
Oh yeah, they're years
get
away
the
from making
permit.
any money on
That's
it.
just a fraction, and then long term, as far as capitalism.
Now, how hard would it be with their so-called artificial intelligence to load people in what they think is a spaceship and actually simulate a launch and have these gullible people think they're actually on a trip, and when they land they're underground and you got to stay underground because we haven't terraformed the outside yet, but you can see visions of us working outside. Fake it all. It's going to be 20 years. Who knows what's going on in their mind?
Yeah, as far as the capability of indoctrinating groups
And
of
making it seem
individuals
real. Make
that
it
would
seem real.
fall for the whole. I think that's they're more than capable of accomplishing that scam, no doubt.
Well, let's finish up with a little bit more of what another thing I appreciate about what Jason Jack is doing here is I hadn't heard him bring up the book of Enoch.
Look how many people think they went to the moon or whatever. It's for the masses.
And I think they could do it in 4K today instead of having to fake it with that grainy.
I mean they're limited by their own creativity, and they're plenty creative.
Well, they could copy the novels of Tom Clancy.
That 70 AD there was no fulfillment in 70 AD of anything, that all the prophecy in the book of Revelation awaits, and that we're still awaiting this pre-tribulation rapture, and that it's a lie, and all prophecy was not fulfilled in 70 AD, and that Satan's just trying to steal your joy of the imminent rapture. He's trying to steal your blessed hope, and there'll be dozens and dozens and dozens of preachers that will, when they're preaching on end times, will say this to their members and condition them to look at anything other than their end times beliefs as heretical. And so now, again, you have.
Had you seen this, RJ? Because
I have not.
I'm appreciating it.
It views Jesus and the prophets' words when Jesus is speaking to his disciples in that generation of things that are shortly to come. Upon that generation, the judgment, we take that as truth. When in Revelation 1, the first verse of the book of Revelation, the revelation of Jesus Christ, which God gave unto him to show unto his servants things which must shortly come to pass, we understand that John is writing to the churches of things that must shortly come to pass upon their generation. And he sent and signified it. He is making evident of these things that are shortly coming to pass by his angel unto his servant John, who bear record of the word of God and of the testimony of Jesus Christ and of all things that he saw. Blessed is he that readeth, and they that hear the words of this prophecy and keep those things which are written therein, for the time is at hand. And it was at hand, and we believe this, according to Little Season eschatology. When Jesus said, verily, verily, I say unto you, this generation shall not pass till all these things be fulfilled, when he was speaking of, quote, end times events, unquote, and the Olivet Discourse, we believe that he was speaking to that generation of things which were shortly.
We sure have got a lot out of Matthew 24:34. And RJ, we're happy. This is the message that needs to get out. And whether we're going to get 200 views, he's going to get a couple of thousand, and it's going to inspire other theologians. And eventually, you know, the narrow road is sand of the sea.
Yeah, and as far as the details, and I think the details are plenty important. Specifically, most, say, these letters are to the churches, in Asia, when actually they each one was addressed to the angel of that church. Each one is addressed to the angel.
Okay, so we're going to make this a hard Bible study, huh? That's one of the few times where it could be confusing. Is it a human or is it an angel?
Well, is it the congregation?
Is it the
or is it is the angel
the angel
a messenger spirit being typically is
most of the time that word is used as it. But it does leave open the many mysteries. How can somebody entertain an angel unaware? It certainly did look like men that were talking to Abraham and Sarah, or to Lot and his wife. It was they look like men,
or even Samson's parents. I mean, there's different.
They did an offering, and the
angel left it
into with the fire, and they thought we would die because we've seen God. But what that really shows is that no one can really see God, because God
and survive.
is,
at least this.
well, yeah, you can't do it to light, and plus it's a physical impossibility because he's everywhere all the time, being a blinding light. So that's not going to happen, But
yeah, as far as
it's going to lead to people like Jason and other people doing it better than I did, and it was the shenanigans, of I felt it was me showing love when I had to be insistent. You can't keep using those words, blah, blah, blah. No, it was
without being confusing,
Right. It wasn't fun being the guy that we're saying you're using the words wrong.
Middle season eschatology views that from a chronology standpoint. Full preterism sees it opposite that. Partial preterism, in the same manner, views the millennial reign as being symbolic and that it comes before the second coming of Jesus Christ. This is in direct opposition of the tenets of little season eschatology. As you can see here, this millennium, according to partial preterism, is symbolic and has gone on for over 2,000 years now, and that we're still awaiting the second coming of Jesus Christ. And within these different camps, you have premillennial, you have the futurist, the preterist camp. Within preterism, you have amillennialism, you have postmillennialism. Where amillennialism say that after the first coming, that we are in a symbolic millennium. This has been going on now for over 2,000 years, that this millennial kingdom comes before the second coming of Jesus Christ, that this millennial kingdom is basically Christ reigning in our heart, that Satan is bound right now during this church age. Satan is bound, and that Christ is ruling with a rod of iron. In this day and age that we are in right now, do you see Christ ruling with a rod of iron? Do you think he would put up with everything, this deception, this evil that we see in this world today, right now, if he was ruling with a rod of iron? No, because amillennium conflates, confuses, it uses spiritual duct tape, it uses mental gymnastics to get to the point of its teachings. postmillennialism in the same way, much like amillennialism, that we're in the millennium. Christ reigns in our hearts. Satan's bound. The difference between the two is instead of everything getting worse and worse until the second coming, postmillennialists thinks that things are going to begin to get better and better until this church age.
That's why so many of them, TPUSA and everyone else, was saying, vote, 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 vote. Trump's your best hope. Vote, vote, vote. We can change our government. They want to pass the laws and make it a Christian government or something like it. A few more minutes, RJ. Here he's wrapping up.
We're past the tribulation and the second coming of Jesus Christ, the first resurrection, and the literal 1,000-year millennial reign. We're now during the season of deception described in Revelation 20, prior to when the battle of Gog and Magog occurs, and God judges those armies, and fire comes down from heaven to devour them. I think us being in this time, that the next big event will be the revealing of the camp of the saints and the beloved city in order for this final prophetic event to occur before the great white throne judgment.
What do you think of that, RJ?
The grand finale, yeah.
And then it's like, hey, let's get that great white throne done.
Believe in a new Jerusalem,
big library, yeah,
with Jesus within it, and that this
is... RJ, let's don't show up going like, so I heard you got some books, you know.
Is a literal city as it's described in the book of Revelation. Now, whether the city is still above in the middle of our realm, waiting to complete its descent, or if it's set up on earth, awaiting to be revealed for...
Okay, well, I don't think it's set up on that, but he really hasn't done any Enoch, Jasher, anything.
Tell others, whether it's through...
I question, I don't know how you look at, but after, the great white throne judgment, and, the books have been opened and served their purpose, will there be a final paper drive then, or what do you think? Maybe not.
Probably not. God probably was a ecologist, because we know that if he wanted to write down everything that the Lord did that was wonderful on earth, he would have depleted all of the trees and the papyrus and the skins of the animals, because there's not enough to, no, you can't write all the books of everything that he did. But, here's what they're talking about.
What he did affects everyone, that experienced this life, or at least was in the womb for whatever duration. Yeah, it affects everyone.
Now, earlier, Jason might have kind of hinted that he didn't think, your eschatology was, that important, or a salvation issue. I don't know. But this is one of those. This is a peripheral issue. But if you got an answer, why are there other books? Well, who are the other books for?
You can all go by, what's been revealed.
Right. The only one we care about is this one. It's called the Book of Life. And apparently we're warned, a handful of times, a full handful of times. You don't want to get blotted out of this book. This is the book you want to die in faith. Give yourself that chance of like, I'm trusting in Jesus. I hope that I'm doing it right. This is the one we care about. And we're judged according to works, the deeds that we do after we're saved, I guess. It's like as if it's not crazy enough. After this is happening here, recorded in the books, it's probably more than one book of life. It's a free
And I believe, I think a lot has to do with motives and intent. Whatever you did or were involved in, it pertains a lot to, each individual's motives and their intentions.
Now, the Astors, the Harrimans, the Guggenheim's that went down and died in the ocean, this is when they're going to get judged according to their deeds too, because the sea gives up its dead, death and Hades. This is the all-encompassing final big deal, right?
Yeah, it's all part of that grand finale. However long, whatever amount of time's required to, complete what's going to happen. Yep.
Is this a hint? Maybe, because it says death and Hades here, giving up their dead, but judge according to their deeds. But they're all thrown. It seems like a lot, or it just says is they're thrown in the lake of fire. And anybody not found with their name. So that's something we really want to, if you have that call, if you have that inclination, I say go with it. Wrap it up for us.
Or predator or anything else. I don't think there's much to gain.
I mean, Jason, then you.
Yeah.
I think that this is what we should be doing. We should be showing our point of view, showing the validity of the tenets of whatever end times perspective we have. And I think there's some good intentioned people that simply just don't understand. They're not disingenuous. They're not non-believers. They're not trying to deceive anybody. They just don't understand because they've been socially conditioned in the church. We can't be that way in the little season eschatology community. We can't be that divisive point. We can't be that person or that group of people who go out and want to say that our way is the only way. And if you don't believe our way now, that you're a heretic or you don't know your Bible and you don't read your Bible. We want to be the opposite of that. We want to be somebody that can consider other people's perspective, understand, be patient, be long-suffering. Some people may never get to either understanding little season eschatology, and others that teach other end times perspective. There's people in other camps that are never going to go over to your end times perspective. And I think
so that
God is
very important to a lot of people, try not to make waves, I guess, because, my only takeaway is that now that this is a movement, the channel you joined up with, Flat Earth Nation, Golden Age Past, it's a thing now. They don't want to listen to us, too harsh, too dogmatic, and possibly, a lot of people, I felt I had to. And I was talking to people that I knew had been involved in it for years. But now, going forward, RJ, we have to look at it as a lot of these people, they don't know us. They never heard of us, but they only heard about this 6 months, a year ago. So I'll have to stay content with our small little thing here of people I know and let other people, but I'm going to keep pointing it out. Now, if Jason Jack goes and starts talking about Enoch, all of this is going to go away real quick of like, hey, Jason Jack, way to go, because I'm going to be pretty much against it. Whatever they got going with the book of Enoch, I'm against it. I'm against Jasher. If it's not scripture, I don't want to hear it. Matter of fact, I've never read a chapter of any apocryphal book.
Yeah.
I've heard their
Yeah, right.
quotes when they in debates and things when I talk about it.
I mean, it doesn't hurt, to maybe look at some other perspective just for, I don't know, not that you have to be comfortable with it, but not or have it influence you in a way that is contrary to what's revealed in the scripture.
Yeah, I've read the
that
cliff
we're,
notes on them all.
Familiar with. As far as looking at it, so you're informed as far as trying to understand someone else's alternative
That's like
perspective.
I don't read Voltaire anymore. I don't read David Hume or Frederick Bastiat. That shit was, excuse me again with my language, that was all forced on me in college, universities, and by everybody else. And my dad, who said, if you want to be smart, you have to know
And
what
you
every
experienced
god
it.
is in Roman and in Greek and their equivalents, or you're not going to be fitting in.
So at least what that includes. What when someone says that that's where they're getting their influence from, then you can understand at least that nonsense. But
that's like,
yeah,
I don't like I'd never seen a full episode of The Family Guy, but I know that it's not The Simpsons, but I've seen the clips. I know all the people. I know the Lisa. I know the neighbor is a Christian
a lot
person.
of that's well written.
It's
for
funny, but it was not allowed
right.
in our house. My wife at the time said no Simpsons, so I was like going
Well, it's
like,
adult. Yeah, it's adult.
yeah. But it turned out my kids were watching it anyway. And she
Yeah.
was shocked when
And it
she
may
went
be
in
inappropriate,
on
and
a
probably
parent
is.
night when they hung up on the wall everything, and my son filled out a thing in third grade. What's your favorite show? Simpsons. My wife.
Animation, and it's.
And they do. They preview everything. So we covered it. I got the books on the racism today. I don't know if you joined right on time, but when I came
minutes.
back after I went to see the vice president, they were giving away books from the library. This is the one by the guy who wrote about the Ku Klux Klan and the good Klan and the bad Klan. Here's another book that is an
When was it copyright? What was the copyright on it? Or
1907.
Okay.
And this one is from 1878. And it I don't know if I'll be able to show you the picture, but it has the
yeah, it ain't gonna work, right?
Right. You can see it from down here. It has the A and the E together. The Diatrot Encyclopedist, 1878. And it describes a man that had just inherited $10 million equivalent back then and decided to go tour the world and explain it to everybody. And he wrote it all down. So he went to St. Petersburg, Constantinople, everything.
And it's not a novel. This is
encyclopedist. It's kind of like his Marco Polo journey.
Yeah,
so I'll see if he mentions any flat earth. I'll see if it has an index. I don't have time to read it right now. But everything the Lord has done, because when, like I said earlier, when I was talking to Gail Willis, the vice president, she's the assistant to the vice president. She goes like, well, what do you do, Paco? Because she knows there's people here and I'm trying to start a church here. And, so like, what are you doing? You're collecting silver. What do we do? And I said, what? And I go, Well, when my other friends that are from this area ask me, what do we do, Paco? I say, well, I decided to move to Alamosa and write it out. So let's do that. That's where we're at, you know?
Yeah. Right.
I
Yeah,
can't
as far as
believe it. I mean, it's like something that I was predicting and giving dates on, and thus saith the Lord. But when it's happening, it's still kind of like, man, I can't believe it.
well, yeah,
What's
as far as the sense of urgency is just the humanity, you know, can't we just get along? Well,
right?
I mean, you're trying to connect with at least like-mindedness, you know,
I was sharing with
generally.
Luther earlier today that one of the things that I can't wait for is when I can break away and go to the mountains and stay and only hear about the news, because I don't want to see people eating each other. I don't want to even read about it or see the news clips of today in Los Angeles, another bomb went off and the people were eating the victims, you know, and it's like, oh, I want to be in the
Yeah,
mountains doing my thing
5G, yeah.
there as soon as I can. Anything you want to close with?
Oh, yeah, we'll see what tomorrow will bring. You know, I'm thinking more of the same, you know.
Stock market
Yeah,
things. Yep, I got to
yeah,
write
well,
my
you know, it
advisor.
fluctuates. Yeah. But we know
Earlier, when I first started this,
the devaluation of the
Zach Mack
fiat
said
currency.
Jesus could teach a Sherpa a thing or two steps.
Yeah.
Jesus probably, because I was talking about how Joaquin has got me talked into joining the Rio Frio 5K race this Saturday.
Yeah,
I'm
get
going to
her
show
done.
up at 10 and try to beat that guy. He's going to point out that's the guy that won your age division last year. So I'm going to try to pass him up at the end, you know, because that's what Joaquin said. Keep him close, and then just go for it. Like, okay,
Yeah.
I'll do it. 3.2 miles. That can't kill anybody.
Well, it shouldn't, but you
I
know,
hope not anyway.
it's a better part of 45 minutes probably. That
Oh, heck no. Joaquin does it in 18 minutes and 17 seconds.
yeah, but he's less than half your age, so
Right. The other guy that was the champion did it in 9 minutes and 30 seconds. So that was 20. He did it
yeah, you
in
don't have to worry about
over.
beating him.
Yeah, right.
No.
He's in the 29-minute range. I think I can beat that. So we'll see. I'd like to finish smoking a cigarette. Hey, dudes. Run, love me like a rock, RJ. Everybody,
Yes,
it is a flat earth nation. The golden age is past. The mud flood was Armageddon. No doubt about it. Amen. Hallelujah. Aho. Aloha. Arrivederci. Ciao. Sayonara. Avidase. Nakame. Adios, amigos.